From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
We're back in the studio here with another exciting episode of Dale Carter's America. Gosh, it's just too bad that we don't have anything to talk about, Kurt.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, actually, there's a lot on the plate here today, and we hope that you will help us share the message because we've done a little bit of marketing, but honestly, word of mouth is the best way to get it out there. And considering that we're not only going against the Democrats in this election cycle, we're going against the traditional media in this election cycle, we need to get the word out there from folks who agree with us.
Yeah, 100%. And, there's problems. I don't know how much it affects us or not, but there's shadow banning. There's the algorithm, favors certain political opinions, obviously, and things like that. We just had this past week, or actually yesterday, I think, Mark Zuckerberg released a statement saying that the Biden administration, he admitted that the Biden administration pressured him to censor information on COVID. So we have that going on. So what you can do to help us is make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube, on Rumble, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify for the audio version. Make sure you're sharing it with your friends, like, comment, all that good stuff. It does help us, and we really do appreciate it. And follow us on Facebook as well and join in the conversation.
We'd love that. I mean, there's a lot of interaction that happens on Facebook from people who agree with us and people who don't agree with us. They're the keyboard warriors. We'll get to that a little bit later on here. You can also do us a favor and get a rate quote from State Farm. And my guy, Bob Watson, he's got all the tools that you see with State Farm, and he's a local guy, and he's been doing it a long time. Just celebrated 50 years as a State Farm agent. He's at 7th and Main in Blue Springs. That's just where they happen to be officed. They're licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. Get on the phone and get a rate quote. Bundle your home and car insurance and save even more. Auto, home, life, he does it all. 816-229-7878. He's been my insurance guy for nearly 30 years, and he'd be glad to give you a rate quote, and you'll find out that when it hits the fan, you really need Bob and his team on your side, not some 800 number with somebody who does not, quite speak the language. And, when you get into that situation where your car is wrecked, it's happened to me multiple times, and they'll say, where are we taking the car? We take the car to Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs. Dale Reynolds has been serving the Kansas City area, putting cars back together when you break them since 1987. And if you're somebody who does body work or you know somebody who does, Dale Reynolds will put you to work. You want to work for a local company here? They hire local, they support local, they're not a franchise. Dale Reynolds is a fantastic guy. Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs, taking care of customers, taking care of you. And boy, you talk about a wreck. That pretty much describes the DNC in Chicago. It was interesting, Kurt, that they had 2 layers of fencing protecting all those Democrats inside the United Center. They believe in fencing, and walls to protect themselves. They certainly don't believe it for the southern border.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we played last week, I believe, some of the clips of all the security that was outside, the cop presence and everything that was going on. So they definitely take their own security very seriously. And we've also seen that, with people who are anti-gun, they talk about more gun control, and yet they're surrounded by armed guards all the time.
Of course they are. Because they're hypocrites.
Par for the course.
That's exactly what they are. So I didn't waste 1 minute of my time on the DNC. Not 1 minute. Of course, I didn't watch the Republicans either, because I already know where I am. I understand the battleground here. I know what the issues are. I know where I stand. And I agree with Trump on most things, not all things, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. I think it would be a disaster for this country, for Kamala Harris to be the next president. So since I didn't spend any time with the DNC, what are your thoughts?
Since you didn't want to watch it, you made me watch it.
That's it.
No, I didn't actually watch it either, but
then this is going to be a short segment.
Well, no, there was some stuff that went viral. I'm on Twitter a lot, and just as an aside too, Twitter/X has become such a valuable tool, not only for this podcast, but just for news in general. You can't really trust the mainstream media. You can't trust the Washington Post or the New York Times or cable news or anything like that. And if you saw the notes for this podcast, I mean, it's all Twitter links. Occasionally it'll be a YouTube link or something like that. But so, there's some moments that went viral on Twitter from the DNC. This is one that I thought was really funny. I heard somebody talking about it yesterday. You know how when the camera guy like always pans to like whoever they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, we support farmers. And then they'll like,
find a farmer.
Cut to a farmer. So this is a really funny moment that happened during Oprah's speech.
We just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady,
Is that her? Childless cat lady?
Yeah. So people were roasting that on Twitter, and then it was reminiscent of this Key and Peele sketch.
Right.
Have you ever seen Key and Peele?
I have not.
It's a very funny show that was on Comedy Central. I can only play a little bit of this because we might get a copyright strike, but this is exactly what just happened.
I will work for everyone, whether you are young, whether you are old, whether you are Asian or Hispanic, whether you are straight or whether you are gay. I will work for all of you. And that's why I also...
That's a great sketch.
This is why you need to watch the podcast, not just listen to it. I know that we have a lot of audio-only people out there, but watch it so that you can get clips like this.
Yeah, that was fantastic. One thing that I texted you about yesterday, significantly less funny, but they had the Central Park Five, the gang rapists that all admitted on tape to committing that crime in Central Park. They came on to the stage to talk about how mean Donald Trump is because he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the death penalty for murderers. Because at the time, they thought she was going to die because she was beaten within an inch of her life. Here's Corey Wise.
5 years ago, my friends and I were in prison for a crime we did not commit. Our youth was stolen from us. Every day, as we walked into courtroom, people screamed at us, threatened us because of Donald Trump.
And this guy here, blanking on his name right now, but he was put on the scene by multiple eyewitnesses during the Central Park incident. I think it was 1989, as having a lead pipe covered in black tape and beating not only the woman, Trisha Miley, but another jogger in Central Park. And also admitted on record to the cops that he was there, that he groped her, that he was violent. Now, not only are all these people multimillionaires, thanks to this guy, Al Sharpton right here, but this guy is a New York City councilman representing Harlem.
Well, and Al Sharpton has some of this in his background too, allegedly.
Yeah.
All right.
But so that was, just kind of shows you where they're coming from. Here is another kind of eye-opening moment from Michelle Obama's speech, and this is just a little supercut that somebody put together that I thought was kind of insightful and also funny.
She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
$12 million mansion, $8 million estate, $8.7 million Hawaiian property, $2,500 pantsuit, $1,000 heels.
There you have it.
You get the idea on that. Suspicion. And again, has she ever had a job?
I'm not sure about Michelle Obama. I don't know much about her
I don't either.
Employment record.
But, they have a lot, and it's all due to the fact that Barack Obama was elected president after doing nothing in the United States Senate and nothing in the Illinois Senate. And he got elected president of the United States. And they have basically cashed in a way that, the founders didn't see coming.
Yeah, I mean, what did they get for their Netflix special deal?
Yeah.
What did Michelle Obama get for her book deal as an advance before it even went on sale? And she got a multi-million-dollar
They were talking about running her for president.
Yeah.
Based on what? I have no idea. But you know what? I'm suspicious of people who cash in like that at that level.
Yeah.
I am very suspicious. So there's still no actual policy on Kamala Harris's website. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo about joy. Remember, Obama won with hope and change. Maybe between that and Joey's basement campaign in 2020, maybe that's how she thinks she can do this without any policy.
It certainly appears that way.
And, you know, the media is trying to get her across the finish line. We'll get to some examples of that coming up here. But that's it. To the policy, I mean, surely there's a tab that says, here's what we believe about this.
Yeah. And of course, you know, as with any campaign website, it's not just her, but you go to, I already closed the window, but you go to KamalaHarris.com. The first thing that pops up is a donation link.
Of course.
And then at the top, you can donate. And so let's see what they have. So this is the homepage.
Mm-hmm.
Not very much there.
Nope.
Store. That's probably just like T-shirts and hats and stuff. Pins.
Yep,
yes,
you go.
she can. All right, let's go. And then we'll go back here. Contact us. Donate. Donate by mail. Frequently asked questions. What is your policy position?
On what? Yeah. On this or that?
Oh, frequently asked questions. Donation. 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 Donation.
Show
donation,
me the money.
Donation. Literally every single frequently asked question is about donating.
Right.
Questions about voting. What are the requirements to vote? Other questions. How can I update my contact information? Donation. Donation. Donation.
So there's no tab that says policy.
No, she has. Oh, there was something. I thought. Oh yeah, here we go. Meet Kamala Harris. So this is just sort of a page about her, I guess, but it's not. You know, she talks about the Biden Harris administration has achieved a historic record of accomplishment, and goes on to lie about that, of course. And then, you know, nothing really as far as, you know, normally you see policy positions and it's like a page where there's, you know, crime and then there's a little paragraph and then there's immigration and a little paragraph, economy, a little paragraph, but nothing like that.
Yeah, nothing like. So she just wants to be president based on what she and Joe did. That's the policies that she's not running away from, because she's running away from some of Joe's policies that people don't like very much. So there is a debate coming up. Even though she has not done a press conference, she has not sat with a reporter, even a friendly reporter like Jonathan Karl at ABC. I mean, he would love to have you over on ABC. She hasn't done any of that yet, but she will stand or sit, I guess that's going to be the rule, for the debate with Donald Trump, and that is coming up on September the 10th. Now, Joe Biden's camp put some rules in place that they thought would hamstring Donald Trump, and it turned out he thrived. You know, the mics were shut off when it wasn't his turn to talk, and he found some discipline within himself to not be the bully that he was the last time around with Joe. So it backfired. And then, of course, Joe imploded, and you know the rest is history from that. So now Kamala wants the September 10th debate to have hot mics throughout, because she thinks that Donald Trump will hurt himself by interrupting. It's what she wants. And if you go back to her VP debate with Mike Pence, we'll give you a preview of what she wants to have happen. She wants to lay a trap for Donald Trump so that she can run TV commercials that show she is a strong woman.
Just like this.
I wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I'm speaking. I am speaking.
Yeah, let's talk about
I'm speaking.
I mean, yeah, that's all she has that could maybe make her appear to have won a debate against Trump. It's not going to be on policy, obviously. It's going to be her having some sort of viral clapback moment, you know, snaps in the air. Yeah. Oh, she told him, you know. Yeah.
No matter what it is, and you know, the media and Oprah Winfrey and everybody on the left, The View, they're just going to run with it. Right? They don't care about any substance here. This is all about getting Kamala Harris elected and the bad orange man going away forever. That's all this is about.
Yeah, and here's a good response from one of our favorites, Byron Donalds. He talks about the Kamala's attempt to change the rules.
There's going to be a debate, but I would tell President Trump and his team to keep the same rules from the Joe Biden debate. And let me be very clear as to why. The reason why Kamala Harris wants to change the rules now to have open microphones is because she wants to interrupt Donald Trump. She wants to be able to create a spectacle out of this debate, which would prevent her from actually being forced to discuss public policy, discuss her positions in detail. She wants to create some sort of moment, some sort of YouTube spectacle that can be replayed so she can hide behind the debate as opposed to talking about the policies that impact the American people.
Absolutely.
She wants to be able to create.
That's basically what we just said.
Absolutely, 100%. Love that guy, too. He's a future star of the Republican Party. Okay, so one of Kamala's announced policies, government price controls, already being walked back by most Democrats. She went out in front of cameras and said, we can do this. We can do this. And she talked about, price controls, which is the most anti-capitalistic thing that you can do.
Well, really what she's doing, I tried to look for a clip of her specifically mentioning price controls, which I didn't find, but what she's talking about is price gouging. She's trying to blame inflation on price gouging. Like it's just, the economy's totally fine and healthy, but it's these big evil corporations. They're just charging more money for no reason out of the blue, And if you look at the profit margin for a lot of these industries, for grocery stores, it's like 2%. For restaurants, it's like 1%, 2%. So, and that hasn't changed. It's just that everything is becoming more expensive. The supply is becoming more expensive. But there was this clip. We don't have to necessarily watch it, but it was I've
heard it.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Elizabeth Warren and the CNBC guy walking all over each other.
Yeah. We'll watch
That
this
is
a second.
the time
That's sophistry. Your example on craft. Your example on craft is even worse.
You finished first. In any of
the
the
interview is only
states
going to be
around the
6 minutes.
country that already have price gouging laws
Can I tell you why
place?
that those are fallacious and misleading at best? And your Kraft analogy is even. Why can't I tell you? Please let me tell you. Kraft, you say, was 440% profit increase. The example you used, the prior quarter from the year before, they had a charge of $1.3 billion, an accounting change which wiped out profits. Then they earned what they normally. Let me finish now. They earned.
You didn't let me finish. Look at the data. Come on. We have economic study now after economic study.
This is the way it always goes.
When there is more concentration,
40 million eggs were destroyed because of avian flu.
When there is more concentration in an industry, we have seen much greater increases in
Do you attribute the inflation?
Yeah.
That's what you think?
That's hard to watch.
I can't take any more of that.
It's hard to watch. This is why we don't watch network TV anymore.
And this is why the government should not be allowed into these arenas. What the fuck does she know about anything? She doesn't know anything about anything. But all of a sudden, these politicians in D.C., Republicans and Democrats, right? They're experts on everything. They don't know shit. Stay in your lane, do what the federal government should do, and stay the hell out of the economy. My God. Anytime they try and get in there and do anything, they screw it up. Richard Nixon, a Republican, wage and price controls, completely screwed up the economy. Stay out of it. The capitalistic society that we have, the economy that we have, it works, right? Supply and demand. It works. And when the government gets involved, something else Kamala Harris brought up that I did not put in the notes was she's out there touting that the government is going to build, X amount of housing units, right? When did the government get into the housing business? What role do they have there? I mean, I want the government to protect me, right? The FDA, I want my food to be safe and all that. So there is a role for government. I want the government to make sure that when I take off in an airplane that it lands safely, right? The government does have a role there. But they shouldn't be building houses. They shouldn't be telling businesses you're making too much money. You know what? As a consumer, I'll let them know, right?
Right.
If they're out of bounds, I won't buy their product. I won't take their service. So I have a role in this as a consumer. I don't need Elizabeth Warren watching my back.
Yeah. This was a post that Kamala made on X
for most of my childhood,
about the housing thing.
We were renters. My mother saved for well over a decade to buy a home. I was a teenager when that day finally came, and I can remember so well how excited she was. I know what home ownership means. And sadly, right now, it is out of reach for far too many American families. During the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big banks who exploited people in the housing market. And today, corporate landlords buy hundreds of houses and apartments, then turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices. We will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals.
Okay, so wait a minute. The federal government is going to build 3 million homes?
I mean, they need somewhere to put all those illegal immigrants that are coming over. And they're running out of space in the 5-star hotels in New York City.
Let me give her a history lesson on the housing crisis in 2008. The Democrats set up the dominoes for that because they required lenders to make loans that they knew would not be paid back.
Right.
They lowered the bar. Every time you lower the bar and you force banks, again, this is what is the government doing here? Why are they doing this? So they force the bar even lower, and so a bunch of people go out and they get loans that they can't pay back, and guess what? They were foreclosed on. I mean, you got to buy what you can afford. Rent until you can buy. I mean, you bought a home, right?
We're looking at it.
You're looking at buying a home. I remember we rented when I was a kid, just like Kamala Harris. I'm a little bit older. I think I'm about a year older than her. And, I remember when we bought our first house, my stepdad was a cop. My mother was a secretary. It was not a big house, but it was ours. So, I get that. I get that you need to start here to get here. What I don't get is the government putting their fist on the scale. She says, we're going to have a government program that's going to give you $25,000 in down payment assistance. How are they going to pay for that?
Well, also, when you do that, guess what's going to happen? That price of every house is going to go up $25,000.
Inflation. It's exactly what's going on here. They put trillions of dollars in funny money into the economy, and guess what? We got inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
It's the same thing that's happened with healthcare. It's the same thing that's happened with education. If you look at the graph of government assistance for tuition assistance from the federal government, and you look at the graph of the cost of tuition for public universities, they're both going up like exponentially. So why is that? Why would it not come down? Well, because you're just putting fake money into it. So of course the university is just going to charge more.
Right.
Why wouldn't they?
Larry Summers, I think he was Obama's Secretary of the Treasury, was he not? Larry Summers?
I don't remember.
I think he was. He told Biden, don't do this. Democrats told him, don't do this. And he did it anyway. And now we're living through the results of that. And a guy like Donald Trump, I think, can turn that around. At least that is my hope. Here's another policy that she's touting. Of course, she's not being challenged on it by the media because A, they wouldn't do it, and B, she's either incapable or above doing that. She's touting taxing unrealized gains. Now, she says this is only going to affect the rich, right? Because that's what they say. That's play number 2, by the way. Somebody has something you don't have, and that's not fair. So it's only going to affect the rich, all right? They said the same thing about the income tax, by the way, at the very beginning. It was only going to be on the very rich. So if you're paying income taxes right now, are you paying income taxes, Kurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you must be rich because that's the way it is. Okay, so unrealized gains, right? Unrealized gains. You have a house, I have a house, and it's, I paid this for it, and now it's worth this because of, market gains or whatever, but I'm not selling it. They want to tax me on the unrealized gain between what I paid for it, which is the basis, and what it's worth today. And where does that end? Does it end with your, football card collection, your baseball card collection? I have a G.I. Joe action figure collection. Are they going to assess that and tax me on the unrealized gains? You have a coin collection? What do you have? Classic cars? Is there something that you have and you collect? Well, they see that as revenue.
Yeah. Gold, stocks, jewelry, real estate, anything that you have that has value could potentially be subject to it. And it's also a tax on inflation. It's a tax on their problem that they created, because part of your the increase in the value of your home is just due to inflation. I don't think that you would have a home that's worth 3 times what it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago just on its own, due to market increase. So it's a literal tax on inflation too.
Where are you going to come up with that money? Let's say that you've got a house that you paid $100,000 for, and now it's worth $300,000. So that's $200,000 difference, whatever percentage they're going to tax you on that. Where do you come up with that money?
You probably have to sell your house.
Well, yeah, exactly. You don't have it.
Yeah, there was a clip of Vivek. We like Vivek. I like Vivek.
Yeah.
He's great. He's a great explainer. He's good at explaining concepts. So this was him on the Breakfast Club. This guy Charlemagne the God.
Oh yeah,
is
I
his
know
name.
him.
And this guy has no idea what unrealized gains are. Let's be honest. Or if he does, he doesn't care. He's voting.
He's got
for
a
Kamala.
guy who figures all that out.
Yeah, he's got a guy. He's voting for Kamala either way because she's black. So Vivek is whispering into the wind at this point. But for the audience, it is certainly interesting.
For Kamala Harris's part, though, I think she owes the people of this country an answer. Where does she stand on nationalizing healthcare? Are you for it or are you against it? Where do you stand? This is a big one that people don't talk about. Affects small business owners, including black and white business owners across the country. She favors what's called a tax on unrealized capital gains. What that means is, even if you have a business, you're a businessman too, right? So you're operating a business, but take somebody who's maybe in a tougher position than you are. That means you have to pay taxes even when you don't have the cash to pay those taxes because the government says that it's worth something and you have to pay 25% of that value every year. Well, what if you don't have the cash in your pocket? That forces you to either sell your business, take out a loan to pay taxes. That's a formula for real economic calamity. She has consistently supported that. That's what we need to be talking about. Are you still in favor of it? If so, why? Let's have that policy debate.
Right.
And I think that hiding from those issues is something that leaves the American people holding the bag.
All right, let me skip ahead then because that just raised something that I want to jump to the John Karl interview. So you remember Jonathan Karl? He was the ABC News White House correspondent during the Trump years. So anytime Trump came to the briefing room, which was a lot, Jonathan Karl fly-specked every word out of Donald Trump's mouth, okay? He was like a modern-day Sam Donaldson, who used to do the same thing to Ronald Reagan. The guy, Ducey, who does that now in the briefing room. Not to Biden, because Biden doesn't go to the briefing room. Kamala Harris would never go to the briefing room. Okay, so I want you to watch this exchange from Sunday between Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton and ABC's Jonathan Karl. Okay, and remember, Jonathan Karl, the guy who asked Trump very pointed questions and took apart any argument that he could to get under Donald Trump's skin. Here is Jonathan Karl with Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton.
To the election, and President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms. These are all
what do you
positions
mean
that-
taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no
She
longer
has not said that.
supports
She has not said
Medicare
that.
for all.
She has not said that. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said
But
on
this
most
was not
of
a
these
radical convention. I mean,
Yeah.
she.
So, okay, that's all I wanted to get out of that clip from Jonathan Karl. The guy who questioned anything that came out of Donald Trump's mouth is carrying the water for Kamala Harris. She's changed her mind on that. Well, how do you know that?
Because it's not politically viable for a general election.
Well, Cotton asked a great question to Jonathan Karl. How do you know that?
Right.
She hasn't answered any questions.
No, that's my point. I mean, he doesn't know that. He just wants that to be the case because he knows it's not good for her.
Because, again, the media is trying to get her across the finish line. So last week on the podcast, I asked the question, why Kamala? Okay, why Kamala? And your answer can't be, oh, it's so cool because she's a woman of color. And it can't be, well, it's better than Trump. So you got to come up with something other than that. So I got this email from Mary, a listener of the podcast, I don't know if she listens or watches it. I guess I need to ask that. From Paducah, Kentucky. Took up my challenge.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been listening to your podcast when I have a chance. I enjoy them very much. I do like how you look at both sides of the candidates. I've asked a couple of people, very intelligent women whom I respect so much, why Kamala? One was my aunt and got a little crappy with me, and she couldn't say anything except bash Trump. So I asked another lady, But I put those stipulations on the question. Can't say because she's not Trump. Can't say because she's a woman of color or a woman or a person of color. Still couldn't get a straight answer. She and my aunt said he didn't have to justify their position. I didn't ask for justification. I asked did they see that I'm not seeing or hearing? What is her plan for America, and how does she intend to make things happen? Still can't give me a straight answer. Honestly, I'm not liking how things are going. They're both in their 70s. Anyways, I'm giving you some feedback that I can't get answers either. So again, I challenge you, ask people who are in the bag for Kamala why. And again, give them that stipulation that the answer can't be orange man bad or isn't it cool? We're going to have a woman of color be president.
Yeah, it's about time. Girl boss.
I'm speaking.
Yeah,
I'm speaking. Yeah. Okay. So then there's this. My comment that these people have never had real jobs sparked outrage from one of our favorite keyboard warriors saying, really? Teachers don't have real jobs? Really, Dale? Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about Tim Walz, because I like to keep this on a policy level. You know, what are you going to do in this job, and how is it going to affect me as an American? But you really want to get into the weeds on Tim Walz? Let's talk about him. Real role model. First of all, there was a clip when he was on C-SPAN. I think you could say C-SPAN is pretty much right down the middle, right?
Yeah.
They don't offend anybody. And this person on C-SPAN had Tim Walz on and was going through his resume. And he's just nodding right along, including that part about, and of course, you know, you were in Iraq, right? You know, with your guard unit. Yeah. He never went close to Iraq. He didn't go. So there are people who have served in the military who are deeply offended by that. It's called stolen valor. I mean, honor him for the service that he did do in the Guard, but don't give him service points for things he did not do. And he did not go to Iraq. He didn't. He got out before then. So when he says, you know, these weapons of war and carrying a gun and all that, like I did, you didn't. Because you didn't go anywhere near it.
Is this may be the clip that you're talking about? Let me see.
It might be.
What's your background and how did somebody?
No, it was a woman who was going through his resume.
Well, my wife's from Minnesota, so she took me there. Actually, it was based on the educational system in Minnesota was one that we kind of aspired to teach in. So I ended up in southern Minnesota. My wife's been there for many generations.
And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My battalion provided base security throughout the European theater from Turkey to England in the early stages of the war in Afghanistan. And that same battalion is now in Iraq at this time.
Next call.
Okay, so he threaded the needle there.
Yeah.
But when the woman on C-SPAN was going through his resume and mentioned that he had gone to Afghanistan, he just kind of sat there and nodded. He didn't correct her at all. So, you know, let me put myself in that role. I didn't serve in the armed forces. However, in August of 1981, when I was deciding whether I was going to go to college or not, or continue this radio thing to see where it led, a Marine recruiter came to my apartment and talked to me about going into the Marines. So if I were Tim Walz, I would say, I served my country. Sure. I got this close. I talked to a recruiter. I mean, that's the detail on it. But why can't I say that I served my country?
You talked to a recruiter.
I did.
I've seen Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
Very intense.
It was very intense. I worked up a sweat, so I served my country. He did coach on a high school football team. He was the assistant coach, yet he would have you believe that team won the state championship, and he was the coach, right? He also went out and got a DUI. Boy, there's a great role model for high school football players, don't you think?
So was he actually a teacher or was he just a coach?
He was a teacher and a coach.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, you know, teachers, I love teachers. There are teachers along the way who I credit for being where I am today. But you want to get into him being a role model? DUI? Trying to pass himself off as the coach for a state championship team when he was the assistant coach who got a DUI? I mean, again, we want to put that on me. I was on the football team at my high school. I dressed for one varsity game. I didn't play one down of varsity football. Our team won the conference championship. So I can say I had a role in the conference championship for my high school football team.
Did you get a ring?
They didn't do rings for stuff like that back there. Maybe I didn't get one. I don't know, because I only dressed for one game.
You weren't eligible?
I guess. I didn't have enough time there to get whatever. But that's my point there. You want to dissect Tim Walz? I mean, did they not vet this guy? Did they not know he had a DUI when he was a high school assistant football coach? Did they not know that he didn't go to Afghanistan or Iraq when his unit went, and he wants everyone to believe that he did? I mean, I think those are problems. But that's just me. You want to vote for Tim Walz and Kamala Harris? At least have some reasons other than it's so cool because she's like a woman of color. So cool. Joy. I got joy in my heart. Or at least it's not the orange man. You got to have something better than that. That's
about time we had a white guy vice president.
Yeah, an old white guy with a DUI in his background. That's great. We ought to have that. All right, so some things for you to think about as we move forward and tell you about the roof on your house and solar. We're going to have Mike Dale on, the expert at Royal Roofing and Solar, talking about solar. I had a long conversation with him this week. First of all, Royal Roofing did the roof on my house. Very happy with it. It looks fantastic, and it's doing its job. Now, I'm not going to have that house much longer because my time horizon is a little less. It might be longer if Kamala Harris wins, but right now I'm thinking about retirement in a long enough period of time, short enough period of time that solar doesn't make sense for me. Mike Dale told me that what they're up against is they've got solar operators out there who are convincing people to put the wrong system in, to put the panels on the wrong side of the house, and then they're bitching that it's not working. He's got a list of, I think it was 16 questions that you ought to ask before you commit with anybody else. I would say skip that and get Royal Roofing and Solar on the job. Get them to your house to do a roof inspection and see if you need a roof. They're going to shoot you straight. And solar, Mike Dale is the guy you need to talk to. 816-540-7057. He said, in my role, there are people I tell you can't have solar. The other solar companies aren't doing that. Oh, hell yeah, we'll put it right there. It'll be fine. North side of the house, no sun exposure. It's not working. Why isn't it working? Because you didn't call Royal Roofing and Solar. 816-540-7057. That's the number to call. And then, of course, we got a bunch of folks that are turning 65 very quickly. There are 10,000 of you a day who are turning 65 in this country. And one of the things that government has semi-gotten right is Medicare. Many people in their 60s look at that as the checkered flag. They're only holding on to their job to have real insurance until they can get to Medicare. But it is a mess. It's a multi-headed hydra. And my friends Kirk Doris and Lori Hocker can talk you through that hydra. It's not one size fits all. You've got options. You've got choices to make. Let them help you navigate the Medicare maze. You don't want to sit through a 2-hour seminar where most of the information presented isn't about you. Schedule a no-cost visit with Kirk or Lori and let them show you how Medicare applies to you and your situation. Get the answers, know your options. 3600 South Nolan Road, Independence. Reach them on the phone at 816-701-6661 or on the web at MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. Really good folks. Tremendous people.
Tremendous people.
I got there before you. That's it. The Trump train.
You're not a nice person.
I am always a nice person. The Trump train is leaving the station, and with it, some Democrats are going along with him, and man, the left is losing their mind over this. RFK Jr., the son of Bobby Kennedy, martyred in 1968. Otherwise, he would have been president of the United States. The Kennedy family, icons of the Democratic Party. And Tulsi Gabbard, who ran as a Democrat for president, have officially endorsed Donald J. Trump.
Here's RFK coming on stage.
But he's highly respected. He is a great person.
Highly
I've known him
respected.
for so long, for the past 16 months. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
They got the fireworks.
Oh, yeah. He looks good, too. Very tan.
So there was that. I muted the desktop there because there was a little controversy about that. The band, the Foo Fighters, their song "My Hero" was playing, and they're big libs. Dave Grohl, the lead singer, is a big lib. So he said that somebody put, "Hey, Foo Fighters, did you let Trump use My Hero to welcome RFK Jr. on stage?" They said no. So they were real upset about that, which I thought was kind of funny. But here's an old clip of him saying that anyone should be able to listen to their music.
The thing about music is that music should be available to anybody that wants to hear it.
Except for Trump supporters, of course.
Half the country, in other words.
Yeah. So there was a whole controversy back and forth about that. They said he didn't get the rights to the music, and then the Trump campaign said that they did get the rights to the music. So that was sort of a sideshow. But I thought it was just funny. You know, people are so petty, and celebrities, you know, are the most petty of all. Here is him announcing Tulsi. This was more recent. I think RFK was, Friday, Saturday?
It all runs together for me.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then this was yesterday, I think.
And today I'm honored to officially welcome another true American patriot, a 17-year veteran of the Hawaii Army National Guard, a 4-term Democrat congresswoman, very, very popular, the former vice chair of the National Democratic Party and a 2020 Democrat candidate for the United States presidency. You know, she was a very good candidate. Every time she ran, she was good. She did well. She decided to leave. She couldn't take it anymore, but she is very special. And I didn't know this, but she was a lieutenant colonel. That's not bad. Lieutenant colonel.
That's not bad.
Isn't it bad? I didn't know that. You know, I just found out. I said, put it down. You got to put that down. That's bigger. That's better than all the other stuff I read. But no, she's a special person. She's got great common sense, great spirit. She loves our country, and she loves the people in this room. Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, please.
He's building a coalition.
Yep.
He really is.
I'd say congratulations.
Yeah.
And they've teased, RFK has teased that there will be more Democrats joining the campaign. Now, in both of their cases, they're like sort of Democrats, because Tulsi was a Democrat, but she quit the Democrat Party. RFK was a Democrat, but he ran as an independent. So they're sort of, I mean, they're legit Democrats because they were both current or former members of the Democrat Party. But yeah, it's interesting, and I think it's good for his campaign for sure.
And one of the rumors that's running around the internet, unsubstantiated, of course, is that Kennedy was playing both campaigns for a cabinet position. Now, of course, they don't have any proof for this, but this is what they do. They're trying to disparage him coming across, saying that he was working both sides. I don't believe that. I believe he wanted to be president. I believe he thought he was the right man to be president. And the Democrats blunted him at every turn.
Yeah.
You know?
Denying him Secret Service protection, denying him the ability to be part of the platform and have debates and things like that. And then this was like the day after he announced his support for Trump. The Daily Mail had a story, RFK Jr. accused of being a cocaine dealer at Harvard University as former classmate speaks out. Coincidentally, they put that out the day after he announced his support for Trump. This post got super ratioed on Twitter, 14,000 comments, only 3.1 thousand likes. So the claws are coming out for RFK for sure now that he's on Team Trump.
Well, you know, this election, Kurt, I don't think is necessarily right versus left. And the more I'm thinking about this and the more I'm seeing Trump and the coalition that he's putting together, it seems like it's, you know, the Trump coalition against the machine, the entrenched machine that is in Washington, D.C. And there's an audacity to crossing that machine. Now, you know, Trump's a pragmatist. I think I'm a pragmatist. You know, I just want to get some stuff done. And I think that's what Trump wants to do. He just wants to get shit done, okay? But look at what the machine did to him, okay? He was the darling of the left. I put up a picture on Facebook on our podcast page that's one of many out there, blacks in particular. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, they loved Donald Trump. They loved him. The Clintons loved Donald Trump. Then he came down the escalator, identified as a Republican, and then here it came. The shotgun blast from the left. People who love Donald Trump. Russia collusion. Never happened. They impeached him over suggesting that Ukraine look into the Bidens based on something that actually happened. Biden was not a candidate. He was the former vice president. And Trump, on a phone call, monitored by dozens of other people, said, hey, I think you might want to look into that. They impeached him over it. All right? The left screamed at the top of their lungs, we don't put political opponents on trial. Remember when they said that? Mm-hmm. That's a direct quote. We don't put political opponents on trial, unless it's Trump. He's been tried in 3 deep blue jurisdictions on charges that would not be brought unless he were running for president. All right? And, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm not a tinfoil hat kind of a guy. But was it an accident? There was a colossal failure to protect Trump in Pennsylvania?
It certainly looks suspicious, and there's more and more information coming out about that all the time. And, you mentioned the targeting political opponents thing. I mean, not only are they saying that they would never do it, they're at the DNC, they're on stage saying that if Trump gets elected, he's going to target his political opponents, so it's like the pot calling the kettle black to the extreme.
Projection.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot here on the podcast. J.D. Vance was a darling of the left. I hadn't read Hillbilly Elegy, right? I just wasn't on my radar, not something that would necessarily interest me. But every liberal I know, they read it cover to cover. They love the guy. Well, until he ran as a Republican, and then the machine turned on him. They call him weird, right? He's weird. A self-made man who rose out of poverty and a very dysfunctional family to become a multimillionaire. Didn't that used to be the American dream?
Yeah, they made a movie about it, too. Yeah. I didn't see it, but
it's on Netflix. I'm still reading the book, and I like to read the book first before I watch the movie. But they call him weird. He's just weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting line of attack, I guess. I don't know.
So RFK Jr., who you mentioned, has been ostracized by his family for siding with Trump. I love this. Fox's Tammy Bruce wrote a scathing open letter to the Kennedy family talking about all they've covered for with the men and their family, only to rebuke Bobby for fighting back against the machine.
And this is in response to this letter put out by, I guess, Kathleen and the rest of her family. Statement on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s announcement today. We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride. We believe in Harris and Waltz. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, regardless of the history of the Kennedy family, which is obviously troubled and which Tammy Bruce brings up in her letter, which I'm pulling up now, but just to do that to your family, to make a public announcement, you know, disavowing like a member of your family, it's just terrible. I mean, regardless of the context, if you don't agree, just keep it to yourself, you know?
Well, Tammy Bruce calls out that family for everything from John F. Kennedy's philandering to how they handled Marilyn Monroe. I mean, suspicious about her death, to Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick. All of the troubled past where the Kennedy clan basically closed ranks. And then Bobby Kennedy wants to run for president, Bobby Kennedy Jr., and he can't get through the machine because they're convinced that Joe Biden not only is a virile, strong 81-year-old man, but he's got the juice to go another 4 years. And they carry that fiction until he's exposed at a debate, and then there's a cabal within the White House, and now Kamala Harris is the nominee with not one primary voter.
Yeah.
Not one. And so now Bobby Kennedy goes, you know what? Screw you. In the words of Ronald Reagan, I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me.
Right.
And that's going on. That's with Tulsi Gabbard. That's with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And you're going to see more of those people who don't recognize what they saw at that convention in Chicago, and they don't recognize the policies that are eking out not from their nominee, because again, she's either can't do it or it's beneath her. So RFK Jr., welcome to the right side. And I think Donald Trump's going to put him to work. Again, I don't think Donald Trump is an idealist. I don't think he's a pragmatist. He's going to look at Bob Kennedy Jr. there and he's going to say, what strengths does he bring? He had a lot to say about COVID.
Yeah, and he was also talking a lot about in his so he made a speech that on Saturday, whatever day it was, when he basically dropped out and endorsed Trump and said he was joining the Trump team. He made a speech. I saw some highlights that were really good. I didn't watch the whole thing, but one of the things that he talked about was making America healthy again. He talked about how everyone's fat, basically, and we have our food is like poisoning us. We have all these terrible things in our food, from seed oils to processed fats and everything else. And I know one of his goals, hopefully in a Trump administration, would be to do something about that, and I'd love to see that.
Yeah. So Tulsi Gabbard, how did the machine get to her? They put her on the terror watch list. Has anybody explained yet how that happened, why that happened?
I didn't even know anything about it. There's a response video of her talking about it, but I hadn't even heard of it. You want to check it out?
So yeah, sure, go.
This is a clear act of political retaliation. There's no other way to put it. You laid out the sequence of events the very next day after my conversation with you on the air, warning the American people about how dangerous a Kamala Harris presidency would be. I was placed on this domestic terror watch list, which is called the Quiet Skies list under the Department of Homeland Security. The clear pain and real visceral hurt that comes from this is, as you mentioned, like many Americans, I enlisted because of the terrorist attacks on 9/11, to go after the Islamist terrorists who attacked us on that day, and to now have my own government now turn around and put me on a domestic terror watch list. It hits to the core and is the ultimate sense of betrayal. But we look at why they are doing this. It has a chilling effect. It sends a warning both to me and to anyone else who even thinks about daring to criticize our own government, which is a guaranteed protected right under the First Amendment.
Yeah.
That we will be subject to a violation of our Fourth Amendment right to privacy through this kind of surveillance. And that's the biggest stress that's been caused by this entire situation, Laura, is now forever. I will always be looking over my shoulder.
Yeah. This is who they are, and this is what they do. And again, they say Trump's going to go after his enemies. What are they doing? I mean, they talk about what Trump might do in a second term. This is what they are doing now. And you can't disagree with them. On our side, we do disagree. We can disagree. We're all about disagreement. All right? I'm going to postulate here, Kurt, that you would like Trump to be stronger on abortion.
I'd say congratulations.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would like him to be stronger on that. I don't like his policy on tariffs. I think all the way back to Smoot-Hawley that you can draw a clear line that tariffs don't work and they hurt people, they hurt people at the lower levels of the economic standing.
I love China.
Yeah, because prices go up. I don't think either one of us think he takes our $35 trillion debt seriously enough. I don't think anybody in Washington does. But, man, that is coming. That is going to be a reckoning, if it's not already. I mean, our debt, think about this, is higher than our GDP.
Yeah.
That means we're upside down. And we're continuing to spend like drunken sailors. So we can openly disagree and question. There are no questions going to Kamala Harris. None. And again, she's either above it or she can't do it. And she's got people like Jonathan Karl at ABC carrying her water. They're going to do whatever they can to try and get her across the finish line, and she's not going to do anything. So, some things to think about as we get closer and closer to the election. All right? Something you should be thinking about if you are 45 or older and you have not had your colonoscopy yet, you need to get your colonoscopy. You're like, Dale, I thought it was 50. Used to be 50. You talk about the things that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is talking about with the things that we're eating that are poisoning us. That may be why colon cancer is happening in younger Americans. But the good news about colon cancer is you get your colonoscopy, we catch it early, you live. You don't catch it early, you die. That's the black and white of it. And my friend Dr. Mark Taramina can take care of you and make sure that they do catch it early, right? If you've got it. If you don't, you get a clean bill of health, you come back in 10 years. It's a win-win for you. And if you need the upper GI done, he'll do both. All at his location there in Lee's Summit, right off I-470. It's all self-contained, Midwest GI Health and Wellness. You can find them on the web at midwestgihealth.com. This is something that literally could save your life. You got a friend who's 45, get on the phone. As we record the podcast here on August 27th, my oldest son is turning 38. So he's getting close, right? But he's not quite there yet. 45 is the new 50. Let Dr. Mark Taramina and his fine staff there at Midwest GI Health and Wellness literally get in there and save your life. Then when you got your whole life ahead of you, you might want a new house. Did you see rates are going to come down? The Fed is finally going to start cutting rates in September. That's going to bring down mortgage rates. Supply and demand. It works every time it's tried. Government, get out of this. Don't build 3 million houses. Let a guy like Michael Schroer take care of that. He's been helping folks with their residential needs in the Kansas City area for 35 years. He'll help you find the right home for your needs. Maybe, like my oldest son and his family. Maybe it's a starter home that they just bought. Okay? Maybe it's your forever home. Maybe the kids have finally gone off to college, moved out, and started their own lives. So you need to downsize. Maybe you found a piece of land. You want to build your dream home. Michael is ready to help you get it done. All right? He is a real estate professional with RE/MAX Heritage. He's based in Lee's Summit, but he can work anywhere in the Kansas or Missouri side. 816-783-5800, 816-783-5800. Put Michael Schroer to work for you. Sell your old house, get a new house, and move on with your life. That after you've had your colonoscopy, you got to put things in the proper order, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I've labeled the last segment of the podcast today, kind of this and that. Just going to run through some things. In fact, you just talked about the first thing I was going to talk about, and that's Zuckerberg coming out to the House Judiciary Committee admitting that the Biden administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans during COVID. I mean, we knew that, right?
Yeah.
This is just confirmation.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Here's the letter. We don't have to read the whole thing, but you can find it on Twitter very easily. This is to the Honorable Jim Jordan, Chairman, Committee on the Judiciary, United States House of Representatives. And he goes on to say that in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decision, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of the pressure, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Next item, a federal judge in Texas blocking a program that would give legal status to illegal immigrants married to American citizens. That's something the Biden administration was trying to jam through that would have affected about 500,000 immigrants in the country without legal status. The judge so far, or at least the court that just heard it, is saying you can't do that. The program was challenged by 16 Republican-led states, and it's now blocked for 2 weeks. We'll see where it goes from there. Gosh, do you think he was doing it out of the goodness of his heart or to get another 500,000 Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, I think if
is that cynical on my part? Probably
illegal
so.
aliens voted Republican, and we'd be having a different conversation.
That's it. We'd throw a parade. We're on board. Disney changing one of their rides, the Southern California park, updating the classic Peter Pan ride by removing insensitive racial stereotypes and caricatures of indigenous people.
Oh, I got to find a picture of that.
So there you go. And while they're doing that, the Critter Country is being renamed again. It started as Bear Country in the 1970s and will now become Bayou Country. So they're always tweaking things. I wonder, do they still have It's a Small World after all? I would think that would impact little people. They wouldn't like that.
Apparently, according to Twitter, I didn't verify this, but original scene from the Peter Pan and updated scene.
Yep, they keep removing the
So I
indigenous
guess because
people.
they're
They're a caricature,
Yeah,
right?
they have like big noses or something, and they're red.
Well, I will tell you that one of my favorite shows as a kid was F Troop. And, you know, the indigenous peoples were portrayed very much the same way. But, you know, the joke of the show was they always won. You know, it was F Troop that always screwed up. So it was a funny show. You probably can't watch that anymore. A number of California Republican lawmakers calling on Gavin Newsom to put an end to his electric vehicle mandate after an electric semi-truck caught fire. The Tesla semi-truck veered off a road north of Sacramento, crashed into some trees, starting a battery fire that caused toxic fumes.
Oh, no.
The 100% EV mandate in California, by the way, kicks in 2035. Remember when we had Bob Jackaway from Max Motors on the show? Because they've got every brand that you could imagine. And he talked about how that's one of the things that nobody's talking about is when these things start running into each other, it's going to create, you know, an environmental mess.
Right.
Toxic fumes going everywhere. And then, you know, this is a little off the subject, maybe still on it. I got a warning today because it's going to be hot in Kansas City from the region that oversees our power grid, that it's a power grid warning day where we might have blackouts because the grid is going to be so stressed. And these are the same people that want you driving an electric car, want 100% electric cars. So we plug in all those electric cars on a 100-degree day. Guess what's going to happen?
We need something to power that.
One would think, you know. Mpox is spreading from Africa to Europe. Do you know what Mpox is?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say it?
Oh, no, yeah. It's the PC, they changed monkeypox.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's racist against monkeys or
It's
something.
racist because it comes out of Africa and it, you know, focuses on monkeys and somehow that's racist.
I didn't name it. I didn't name it.
Play number one. Right? Well, I mean, these are the same people that said you can't call coronavirus or COVID-19, you can't call it the China virus.
I love China.
Yeah. It came out of China. It was called monkeypox.
That's still my favorite Trump clip of all time. I don't have it pulled up, but when he's in the press conference, they're like, why you keep calling it the China virus? And he's like, it came from China. It's the best one.
It didn't come from Bolivia, right?
Yeah.
It came from China.
It came from
it's
China.
The China virus. Mpox came from monkeys. So they called it monkeypox.
Right.
Well, that's racist. I failed to see that, but, you know, then again, I don't wake up every day going, what can I do today to make sure that everybody sees me as a racist?
Yeah.
Because that's what I live for. You know what I live for is Funhouse Pizza. I love pizza. And Jim Dingman makes great pizza. You know, if you haven't had a Funhouse Pizza lately, you are really missing out because he piles the toppings high. There's all kinds of cheese on it. It's just fantastic pizza. Now, if you want to settle for something that's not Funhouse Pizza, that's on you. I want the real deal, and that's Funhouse Pizza. 50 Highway in Lee's Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs. Get some cold drinks going there, too. If you got a birthday party coming up, an anniversary party coming up, it's set up for you to enjoy your time there. You got a meeting with your junior league football team that's going to meet. That's a great place to have the meeting because pizza goes well with just about everything. All right. Did I tell you my baby Harry story from the week? It involves pizza. So Jennifer got Fauntleroy a pizza because she was going to the Barry Manilow concert, wanted to push the easy button. And it was not a Funhouse Pizza. Demerits, Jennifer.
Cheater.
Demerits. So Fauntleroy puts the pizza on the kitchen counter right at the edge. Well, you've seen my dog, Baby Harry. I mean, he can get up on the counter. Well, not all the way on it, but he can get his head up there, right? So he gets up on the counter. Next thing I know, Fauntleroy is yelling, no, no, no. And I run into the kitchen, and Harry turns toward me, and he's got the entire pizza hanging from his mouth. And, you know, we got most of the pizza away from him, but he still had the one piece in his mouth, and I could not get him to let go. So there you go. That's my pizza story for the day. Nothing was broken in the house, and that's good news for Bob Watson, my State Farm agent. He's been covering Blue Springs people like me and other folks in Missouri and Kansas for 50 years. If you're sold on State Farm and you need the guy The guy is Bob Watson. Everybody in the Kansas City area knows that. He's been doing it for 50 years. Out of his office at 7th and Main in Blue Springs, on the phone at 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. The boats are about ready to go back into the dock, but he insures that. He can get pet insurance, and Harry might have needed it after I was through with him after stealing that pizza. He can hook you up. If it's insurance you need, get a quote from Bob Watson at State Farm. Bundle your home and car insurance to save even more when you call 816-229-7878. We lead you to this, and I mentioned this once during the episode, that Ronald Reagan very famously was a Democrat, right? He was head of the Screen Actors Guild as an actor, and he left. He voted for, the first president he voted for was FDR. He was an FDR Democrat, and he left the Democrat Party to join the Republican Party. And he always said, I didn't leave them, they left me. Well, it's happening again. So in honor of our 40th President of the United States, we leave you with a bit of his humor. Ronald Reagan, known for a legacy of humor, could always tell a joke, and we'll leave you with this.
It's a story about a woman who walked into a bridal shop one day and told the sales clerk that she was looking for a wedding gown for her 4th wedding. Well, the saleswoman asked, just exactly what type of dress are you looking for? A long, flowing white dress with a veil, she responded with assurance. Not totally convinced, but afraid to offend the woman, the sales lady said, you know, dresses of that nature are usually more appropriate for brides who are being married for the first time, for those a bit more innocent, if you know what I mean. Well, the lady retorted and put her hand on her hip. I do know what you mean, and I can assure you I'm as innocent as the rest of them. Despite all my marriages, I remain as innocent as any first-time bride. Well, you see, my first husband was a dear, sweet man. It was a terrible tragedy, actually. All the excitement of the wedding was simply too much for him, and he died as we checked into the hotel on our wedding night. I'm sorry to hear that, said the clerk, but what about the others? Well, my second husband and I got into a terrible fight in the limousine on the way to our wedding reception. We haven't spoken since and got the marriage quickly annulled. What about your third husband? Asked the store clerk. Well, the woman replied, he was a Democrat. And every night for 4 years, he just sat on the edge of the bed and told me how good it was going to be. Sorry, I just couldn't resist telling that.
He was a funny guy with a lot of funny stories, but there's a lot that rings true because Kamala Harris says, you know what, if you vote for me, I can fix everything that we screwed up over the last 4 years. Maybe, in 8 years, it's going to get better. I promise. Well, until next week when we set up the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and happy Labor Day to everyone, too. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, this is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to DaleCartersAmerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.